There was a housing shortage after the Second World War, and prefabricated bungalows, or prefabs, were one solution. This is a post-war prefab, originally built in 1947 and now reconstructed at Chiltern Open Air Museum. Prefabs were made using different materials to normal houses. The parts were prefabricated, ready-made in a factory, taken to site and then put together, which is where the name comes from. 160,000 prefabs were made in the late 1940s. They were only intended to be used for 10 years, but many were still lived in up until the 1970s. The museum's prefab was one of 46 on the Finch Lane estate in Amersham. There were 18 different designs, and this one is a Universal House Mark III. It was made by a company in Rickmansworth. The prefab is built from 26 asbestos cement panels, bolted together on a wooden steel frame. This stands on top of a concrete base. They weren't made to last forever, so the Finch Lane estate was being demolished to build more modern houses. The museum wanted one because lots of people remember them. They are an important piece of our local and social history. Our prefab was dismantled by museum staff and volunteers in November 1987. Several spare parts were taken from other prefabs on site. The building was in excellent condition, almost as good as the day it was first erected. It was reconstructed at the museum during 1992 and 1993 and cost £4,500 to rebuild. The interior is furnished as it would have been in 1950. All of the furnishings are authentic for this period. People who lived in prefabs called them little palaces, and they were quite expensive to rent. They had an inside toilet, hot and cold running water and central heating. They were allowed to be decorated, but only paint from a strict list of colours were allowed. Prefabs had modern luxuries such as a fridge, oven and electrics. The cooker, fridge and copper in our prefab are all original. Robert and Ethel Brandt lived here with their 3 children and pet parrot. The museum is still in contact with the Brandt family who lived here from 1948. Some of their family photos are on the mantelpiece. The back bedroom was the children's room. Our visitors enjoy reminiscing and having a play with the historic toys and games in here. The garden shed is a wartime Anderson shelter. It came with the building. After the war, the council sold off their remaining shelters as garden sheds. All the prefabs on the Finch Lane had one. There were still food shortages, so the government's Dig for Victory campaign became the Dig for Plenty. Prefab gardens were full of homegrown vegetables, fruit and herbs. To find out more about the buildings at Chiltern Open Air Museum, visit www.coam.org.uk.